Hey YouTubers, and we have a great Dragon Ball discussion for you today. Today I'm joined by D3DBZHD. Say hello.
What's going on, guys?
So, today D3 is going to join me in talking about something that I think is a really interesting topic for Dragon Ball fans going forward who like Dragon Ball Super. And that is, how will the transition work for Dragon Ball Super fans who are really anticipating the Funimation dub but are actually watching the sub version as it comes out from week to week? Will people really still enjoy watching the Funimation dub, or will there be this been there, done that type of feel? D3, do you have any ideas on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I think that, like, for me personally, I grew up with the dub. I mean, I'm 22 now, so the dub was out when I was like freaking like 5 or whatever, something like that. It was so long ago, and I would just remember watching it, and I would tune in weekly, and then they'd rerun it, and it would piss me off, but I'd still watch it every day. And it just, I grew up with the dub, and I was always one of those people that was just like, hey, up until like maybe like a year ago, honestly, I was just like, hey, I won't watch the sub. I don't like the voice actor Masako Nozawa. I don't, I'm not into that. I don't like reading subtitles. But within the last couple years, maybe I really want to say, not really the last couple years, I want to say maybe the last 6 years, 7, maybe even 8 years. I'm throwing numbers around. Probably when I was like 13. Okay. When Naruto was coming out, I used to watch it, and I enjoyed it a lot. But I found out that at that time, I'm also going to do a video on this anyway, how I got into Naruto. But I found out at that time that YouTube, you could have full episodes on YouTube. So what I would do is I would just, check out all the episodes on YouTube. Back then, they didn't care. And I started watching Naruto Shippuden. And it was obviously way too late down the line. It was all Japanese. And I started watching the Naruto movie. So I really fell in love with, being able to watch animes in advance and then watch subtitles and whatnot. But with Dragon Ball Z, I couldn't do it because it was something that was readily accessible to me that was in a dub format already. So I couldn't do it. So, kind of getting back on topic here, I think that gradually myself, I was able to morph with my Dragon Ball Z fandom and was like more open to it because in the same aspect with Naruto, Dragon Ball is it's readily accessible right now, but in this day and age, it's readily accessible to us right now in a subbed format. So it's kind of like, well, would you really sit here and wait maybe a year and a half before it actually freaking premieres from from when Super premieres in Japan versus when it premieres in a dub? Would you really wait all this time, wait till the series is done before you sit there and actually sit down and watch it? I don't really see you being able to say, hey, I am a legitimate fan of the series when this content is right in front of your face. You can't go on YouTube without seeing something about this content. It's just all over the place. And you're going to, purposely go out of your way to avoid it because you have a bias towards the dub actors. And it's okay to have a preference. I don't have anything against the dub actors. Honestly, I'm kind of torn because I grew up with the dub, but honestly, in all truthfully honest, like the sub has grown on me so much. Like I said, I've always been a fan of subbed anime, but as far as Dragon Ball Z goes, that was always my one thing. I couldn't do it. Like I've fallen out with Dragon Ball Z. I stopped watching for a couple years, come back. I always come back to it, but like I couldn't do it with sub. And honestly, Masako is great. Like Masako Nozawa, she's great. I think that she is an incredible voice actor. People get mad that she whines a lot and she's a female for Goku, but the thing is, she really captures Goku's character well. Sean Schemmel, like, he's great. I enjoy him. I don't like anybody else aside from him. That's a Goku voice actor. That's a male and in a dub format. But the Sean Schemmel thing is like, my personal opinion is like he captures Goku well, but he kind of makes him sound he makes him sound a little bit too what's the word, like a little too heroic to me. Not just lines. I'm not talking about lines, but just his voice in general. I think that Mosaka's voice fits Goku a little better because Goku is by nature supposed to be this really playful guy, you know, like a man-child, if you will. And I think that, especially lately, Sean Shammel's voice has been a lot deeper with Goku lately. And it just seems really weird to me. But I think that, you know, from a fan perspective, there's going to be a minority of fans that are going to be like, hey, you know, I don't want to watch this show. Like I was saying a moment ago, I don't want to watch this show because I don't want to read subs, or I don't like their voice acting. I don't like this or that. And in my opinion, I'm like, hey, you're missing out because, you know, this is great. And you're really going to sit there and be the only person that hasn't seen the series.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. Let me get some of your thoughts, Mark, because I've been going for a while.
Holy crap, that was a really good kind of like mini rant there. I honestly, before I go any further, if you guys don't check out D-Free's like reviews and stuff about Dragon Ball Super going forward right now, please subscribe to his channel. Go see that. It's freaking amazing. Like, this guy will just talk at you, but it's like a conversation, just like that. The stuff you just listened to, it's great.
I'll just talk at them.
It's like, oh no, it's like it feels like a conversation. Like, I'm not really saying anything, but I feel so engaged in what we're talking about. But anyway, we're getting way off topic. And the thing is I completely agree. When Dragon Ball, for me, I'm 25. And when Dragon Ball premiered, I started relatively early in the Toonami days. I think I was around the Saiyan saga. The Saiyans had just gotten to Earth, Nappa and Vegeta, and honestly, I've grown up with it since. There was a time in there where I forgot about Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Z, in general, GT even, and I didn't get back into it until Battle of Gods, and I watched it on YouTube first. Now I got the sub version, and that didn't really like affect me. I was like, okay, I just want to see this. I want to get through with it. I don't want to have to wait any longer. And then when I got to the point where I watched it in theaters, I was like, oh, good old, you know, dubbed cast again. Like, this is the Dragon Ball that I grew up with. And then I couldn't watch Fukatsu no F in theaters because it just came out too slow. And, you know, it came out too quickly. And if you know how piracy for movies work, it's way different than television. So I had to wait for the dubbed version, but that wasn't a bad thing. But then Super started, and like I said, I've always been in touch with the dub side of me. I love the dub. I don't necessarily go into any type of subs for anime. I'm not a huge anime person. I don't watch Naruto, One Piece, or Bleach yet. I'm going to get into them soon. You know, you and I have talked about that a lot and how I should be watching all these things. But, you know, so now we're watching week to week. And the more and more I look at it, I see a lot what you talk about in your reviews about having like respect for the dub and never going to go back to the dub, respect for the sub, I mean, and never going to go back to the dub in certain ways. And what Geekdom talks about if you don't watch the sub, you don't necessarily watch the show. And I didn't really believe that up until I started looking at this series analytically and had to watch the sub week to week because it's the only way to digest the story. And it's completely different. I mean, it's like what you were saying about Schimmel. He's too heroic to be Goku. And just listening to Miyazaki, or I'm sorry, just listening to Goku and all that stuff in Dragon Ball Super, it's like, this is Goku. Like, animated, everything else. And I just don't necessarily see, having gone through all these episodes, at this point it's like going to be 24 tomorrow, I don't necessarily see how it's going to work in the dub. Like, there's too many, I know they're going to have like this lost in translation thing where they're going to have to change the scripts to actually make certain things make sense in terms of American audiences and stuff, but the stuff that works in Dragon Ball Super works so well only because it is a sub, and because we're watching it in its like native language, and I feel like that's not going to be something that I actually kind of want to go for and rewatch again and like see how it changes. I might do it because kind of I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super, but I mean, we were talking before this, and whether or not you or I or anyone who's actually watching Dragon Ball Super up to this point, which I'm assuming is a huge portion of the Dragon Ball fandom in the United States or all over the world, these people are watching it week to week because we actually live in a time, not we lived in this time in 1998 or even in the early 2000s where you can watch this stuff readily. It's readily available. As soon as it airs, you can watch it. You can watch it as a live stream even. And you got people doing reviews on Dragon Ball Super as it's streaming, like live reactions to the damn thing. It's so instantly gratifying that why would you wait? And since you're rewatching it, would you even want to go back to Dragon Ball Super in the first place? I mean, a lot of people have shared their discussions and ideas and topics about this series, and you and I were talking before this video, it just isn't that good of a series to be like, I instantly have to rewatch the show, especially just because it's in the dub form, because you know what's going to happen week from week, episode to episode, and will it be gratifying just seeing the dub version?
Yeah, I honestly, I can't lie. I have no desire to watch the dub version. That's just me. I really just don't, because maybe the most I could do is I could rewatch the Universe 6 stuff, and if there's anything else after that, because that's new content. But like I was telling you, like, while I enjoy, them implementing new things, big or small, into the Resurrection F and Battle of God stuff, at the end of the day, it's the same thing. And if I want to see those stories told, I'd freaking go watch the movie, honestly, and spend an hour and a half watching it versus 15 episodes, So I really don't see myself rewatching it. And then the thing is, I was thinking about this just personally, like a few weeks ago. I was like, it's gonna really bother me when I'm not gonna do it, when I start seeing like, other bigger YouTubers dropping reviews for the dub, and I'm like, why would you do that? You've already reviewed the whole series. So it's like, I know somebody's gonna do it, and that's the thing. It's just gonna bother me, and it's like, I have nothing against the dub version, but the replayability of Dragon Ball Super is just not there. I mean, it's an enjoyable series. It is. It's fun. It's consistently enjoyable. I'm not going to say it's a bad series, because it's just flat out not. I mean, it's funny. It's well written so far up until the Resurrection F stuff, where we're getting a whole lot of plot holes. But, they're doing a good job so far. And if you kind of look at it from like a different perspective, with all the material around it, you can kind of, like I was telling you a moment ago, you can kind of start to, paint the picture as to what the story really is. They got the Battle of God stuff. You got them, they're making their progression to gods, and they come across Frieza, who is just, like you said, conveniently powerful. And then, after that, they go off the train some more, and then they got the Universe 6 stuff. You can start to really see how it's going to unfold. And I still think it's a little too early to judge Dragon Ball Super as a whole. But as far as the first two arcs, I can't touch them. And when they're dubbed, honestly, I just really, honestly, truthfully, and honestly don't see myself watching them, because it's like, I already know how this episode's going to end. I know how the overall story is going to end. I know how the overall arc, even with all the changes, is going to end. I don't know. That's just my thing. I feel like if you're excited for Dragon Ball, you're going to watch it as soon as you have the opportunity to do so. That's all I really have.
And
so.
I'll just add to this, in terms of rewatching Super as its own entity, I don't see myself doing that. I completely agree with you. But in terms of rewatching Dragon Ball, including Super, I can definitely see myself doing that in the future, and I'm sure I will. I've said this in my last couple of videos. Dragon Ball Super, to me, seems like so much of a victory lap for Toriyama and Dragon Ball itself at this point, that it's just nothing but like a walk down memory lane. And I have my own predictions about these Champa the Universe 6 people, and how there's just going to be no tension. I know you and I have talked a lot about tension, and how there's like no tension in Dragon Ball Super, and there probably won't be at any point anytime soon. So I actually have this thought process that this Universe 6 arc and the tournament coming up is going to be nothing more than like a walk down memory lane. Even all these people just remind me of things that we've seen in the past, and I think that's exactly what they're there for. And I think, personally, if I go back and I rewatch Dragon Ball, and I rewatch Dragon Ball Z, and then I go into Super, and I watch this in this series, as I have just rewatched, like, all, what is it, like 400 episodes prior or so, that's going to be really emotional for me, and I'm sure it will be really emotional for any fan, because this series is just so much like, do you remember what happened back then? How far have we come? Even in the dang opening and closing songs, I mean, that's what the lyrics are about. It's like, we're not supposed to be here, but we are, and like, that's the beauty of it. And it's like, I think rewatching Super as a whole is going to be great. And I might see myself doing that with the dub earlier down the line, but I am not going to be scratching at the door to watch the dub. And I thought I was, and that's just the weirdest transition I think I've made as a Dragon Ball fan as soon as Super started. And I think that's the most impactful thing that's happened to me as a Dragon Ball Super fan, or Dragon Ball fan, ever since Dragon Ball Super started, was I have really learned to appreciate the sub.
Yeah, and a lot of it for me comes from watching, Geekdom, because I don't think I miss any single one of Geekdom's videos. Like, I watch every single one.
True.
And then he really just was like constantly, you need to watch the dub or the sub. You need to watch this every single video. I was like, what the hell is the hype about? It's the same show. And I was like, fine, because I was like, I came to a point where I was like, I wanted to up my knowledge on the series and stuff like that. So that's when I just was like, okay, I'll start rewatching stuff. And I was like, damn, this is not what I remember at all. It's really not the same show. Like, they changed so much stuff. It's really not the same show. And I was just like, whoa, I was enamored with it, and that part of started my enjoyment for Super, because like I said, it's a fun series, and I enjoy it a lot more than I do watching Dragon Ball. I enjoy Super and subbed more than I think I would enjoy the dub version. It's not, people have this I don't know, this mindset that if it's not in your native language or your first language, which would be English for majority of fans, I'm assuming, it can't be good, and they have this feeling where, like, reading subs detracts from the experience, and it just truly doesn't. Because the whole thing, in my opinion, reading subs actually makes me more analytical with it, because if I'm sitting there watching it for enjoyment and I don't have to focus on it, I'm just watching it. I mean, I don't remember anything, to be honest. I'm just like, damn, that's tight. But if I'm reading, I'm focusing on the script, so I know everything that they're saying. And so from an analytical YouTuber type aspect, it helps out a lot as well. And I just think that, being able to watch these type of shows and these series in different formats is great. Being able to do so because it's readily accessible, you can do so. We live in a time where all this stuff is on the internet. It's you can go buy it from here, you can do that, you can do whatever you want to get this content. So why wouldn't you? That's pretty much all I really have.
I mean, yeah, me too. I think at this point, Dragon Ball Super, like I said, the most impact that series has had on me, and I think for a lot of fans who are watching this video or not watching this video, is the fact that I think as going through the last, 25 or so weeks of actually having Dragon Ball Super around, we just appreciate the sub way more. And a lot of that also goes to people like Geekdom and everyone who's just been pioneering this. You have to watch the sub. It's a completely different show. And I agree with that sentiment where it's like, it can't be the same. It can't be a different show because it is what it is. It's just Dragon Ball. And then you go back and you listen to, just how much difference a voice cast can make, let alone changing any lines or something, and how certain characters are portrayed and everything, like you talked about in the earlier parts of this video. It's just mind-blowing. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of people out there have really appreciated Super over things like Dragon Ball GT, for example. It just feels like we've grown up with these characters, and even in the best of the dub moments, you get a great sense of who characters like Goku are, or Vegeta, or Krillin, or any of those other people. And just watching the sub version is just so much more purely that, and who these characters are and everything. Just because, it's its native language, it's its native way of speaking and acting, and the voice cast and everything. And I think that it's having a profound effect, and probably one of the reasons a lot of people are still watching the sub, even if they're not terribly excited about exactly what's going on or the lack of originality recently with the series. And I think that that's one of the things that people are going to continue to actually really enjoy. And as the series kind of concludes, who knows how long Super is going to be, but as that concludes, I think that's going to be the most lasting impact. And it will be really interesting to see how well the dub fares in America, or even around the world, knowing all this.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't know how it's gonna do, but You have anything else you want to say, man?
No,
We're getting kind of like at 25.
Yeah,
I haven't checked, but I'm assuming it's like 2025.
yeah,
So.
it's been a long one. No, I'm completely done. I think we've kicked this horse to death.
Cool. Well, take us home, man.
All right, guys. Thank you so much if you've gotten this far in the video. I'm going to leave D Free's link down below. If you, for whatever reason, you're subscribed to me but not him, please consider going over to his link and checking out his channel. When I found it, I was just blown away. This guy does great reviews. He covers a lot more types of anime. He covers Pokemon on a different channel. This guy's great. He's so nice. Just seriously, go check out the link, see for yourself. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. Please don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe. We really want to see what you'll have to say about this. But anyway, have a nice day, everyone.
See ya.